Good evening. Welcome to the Laws of Sefirah. We're on Siman Tuf Pei Tes, Zion 489-7. And if you hear disco music in the background, I apologize. One of my neighbors seems to be having a party. I'm not sure if the computer is picking it up or not. But okay, let's get started. Anyway, Shachach v'lo birach kol halel. Let's say you forgot to count Sefirah at night. We mentioned already that the best time to count Sefirah is at the beginning of the night because you can get Tamimos, you can get a full day. So we want to count at the beginning of the evening, which is after 3 stars come out. So let's say you forgot to do that at night, but you remember during the day. What do? Yispor bayom below bracha. You should count during the day without a bracha. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah why. Yispor bayom kadas harbi poskin to b'diavad Sfiras yom ole l'Sefirah. Because b'diavad, after the fact, many hold that counting the Omer during the day and not at night, right? Because the Jewish day starts in the evening, goes into the day. So if you forgot to count the Omer during the evening and you remember during the day, so some poskim hold that you fulfill the mitzvah of Sefirah even when you count during the day. Below bracha, and the reason that you don't count with a bracha, you count without a bracha, is because some rabbis hold that you do not fulfill the mitzvah by counting Sefirah during the day. So since some hold that you don't fulfill the mitzvah by counting Sefirah during the day, so we are worried for those opinions, because if we count Sefirah without a bracha, we don't lose out, right? What do? We just count it a day. But if we make a blessing and turns out that we don't fulfill the mitzvah by counting a day, then we would have made a blessing in vain. So therefore, when one should count during the day without a blessing. Ukishim mevarech bayom hulavatalo miu mikam lahaba sofer bechol laila bebracha. And he says, though, for the subsequent days, you should still count with a bracha. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Why does he have to tell us that the subsequent days of Sefirah, you count with a bracha? So that we're going to see right now. There's a big debate, famous debate amongst the early commentaries. The mitzvah of Sefirah, we count 49 days from Pesach to Shavuos, from Passover to Shavuos. Now, each night we count one of the days. So do we view the mitzvah of Sefirah as 49 separate mitzvahs, or is it one big mitzvah? So if we hold that it's one big mitzvah, that means, let's say if you miss day 14, that means there's no point of counting 15, 16 until 49 because you already missed one day and you'll never get 49 complete days. However, if we hold that Sefirah is 49 separate mitzvahs, that means, so what, I forgot day 14. I can still get a separate mitzvah for each subsequent night until 49, and I'll get 48 out of 49 mitzvahs. Not bad. So that's a debate between the rabbis. Now let's see how that comes out practically. How is that going to affect the practical halacha? So let's see ches. Im shachach levarach be'echad mehayamim. Let's say you forgot to count Sefirah one of the days, like we just mentioned. Ben yom rishon, ben rishar yamim, whether it's the first day or another day. Sefer b'shar yamim below bracha. So you should count subsequent days without a bracha. And the reason is because we're worried that there's that opinion that holds that the mitzvah of Sefirah is one big mitzvah. Therefore, if you forget one night, you lost the whole mitzvah. So according to him, there's no point of counting. However, according to the other opinion, that's 49 separate mitzvahs. So then you should still count even with a bracha. So what we do, we make it's kind of a compromise. We count, because you have nothing to lose by counting. Maybe we paskin like the opinion that says it's a separate mitzvah and you have nothing to lose by counting. However, we don't make a blessing because if it turns out we paskin like the one who holds that it's one big mitzvah, then we would make a blessing in vain. So what we do is we count without a bracha. Now, that's if you for sure did not, you for sure forgot a night of Sefirah. Now, continues the mechaber. If you're not sure if you counted a day, so it's day 15 and you can't remember that I count Sefirah last night. So what's the halacha there? Yispor b'shar yamim b'bracha. Then you continue counting even with a bracha. So the halacha is if you for sure forgot a night, then you continue counting without a bracha. If you're not sure if you forgot a night, then you continue counting with a bracha. Now let's see the Mishnah Berurah why that is. Shachach levarech rotz leimar shel sipur v'lo niskarat Sefirah she'acharev hu adinim noida lo she'echmol tov b'minyan v'savar Sefirah achares dino k'mo shelo sipur klal. Right, or not only the first case, you forgot to count a night. He says not only if you forgot to count a night, but you remember that you counted the wrong night, because counting the wrong night also is like not counting. Okay, so for b'shar yamim, kadas hari poskim dein Sefirahs yamim ma'akven zezed v'chol yamim even mitzvah v'fnei atzmas, like we said, below bracha lach u'shlam adar mitzvah somer shev shabazim tmimos v'yinin v'halaka. Okay, so we said v'nacham b'zeh sheishma bracha min shliach tzibor So he says, what's the best procedure to do if you ended up forgetting to count Sefirah? So we said you can't make a bracha. So he says, what you should do when you go to synagogue, you should have in mind to fulfill the bracha with the shliach tzibor, with the cantor who's leading the services. Because the cantor who's leading the services always makes a bracha for the congregation. So when he makes the bracha, you should say amen. You should have in mind to fulfill your obligation of the bracha with the chazan, and then you should count. So this way, you get the bracha. You just can't make the bracha yourself, but you can answer amen to the chazan's bracha. Okay, so that was the case where you for sure forgot to count a night of Sefirah. Now, what's the case if you're not sure? So he said, Yispor b'shar yom bracha. We count with a bracha. Now, why is that? So the Mishnah Berurah says, the ika sveik sveika. There's a concept in the Talmud and amongst the halachic literature called svek sveika. So a suffix is any time you have an uncertainty. Let's say an uncertainty, you have two tzdadim, you're uncertain about a case. Is this meat that I found on the floor, is it kosher or is it not kosher? A svek sveika is when you have two uncertainties. Now, don't go around making your own svek sveikas. The Shach writes in Klali svek sveika, we don't go around making our own svek sveikas, but in this case, we have a svek sveika. That's, in general, it means there are two separate uncertainties, and since there's two separate uncertainties, we can be lenient. Now, trust me, there's many, many more details about that. The Shach wrote a whole book about it. There's books written on this topic, but in this case, there is a svek sveika. What is it? There's two things in doubt here. So one, again, the case is we're not sure, guy's not sure if he counted Sefirah last night. So question one, Shemelo dile klal, maybe he actually counted, maybe he didn't omit Sefirah. That's one question. Vim tim solam rishadilig, and even if you say that he did forget, Shema halacha ka'osin poskim dechol yom hu mitzvah b'fnei atzmo. The second question is, maybe Sefirah is 49 separate mitzvahs, and you could still count, right? So there's two issues here. Question one, did he remember to count? Did he not remember to count? Question number two, is Sefirah 49 separate mitzvahs, or is it one mitzvah? So according to the way the Rashba explains svek sveika, you have 75% chance that he could still count, and 25% chance that you can't. This is true by any case where you have to count because of a suffix. Then you The Mishnah Berurah says this is also the case. Let's say certain times we mentioned that if you counted, let's say you counted Sefirah and you did something that it seems that it wasn't totally halachically correct. So we say you should go count Sefirah again without a bracha. The reason is so we can fulfill all of the opinions. Perhaps you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of Sefirah through all the opinions. An example is, let's say we mentioned during Sefirah you have to mention the days and the weeks. So let's say you made an error in the days but not in the weeks, or you made an error in the weeks but not in the days. So the halacha is that in that night you have to go back and count again without a bracha. So says the Mishnah Berurah, let's say you forgot to count again without a bracha. So let's say you counted the days and you made a mistake in the weeks. So, and then it's the next day and you say, "Oy, I made a mistake in the weeks and I didn't count again without a bracha. What do I do?" So the Mishnah Berurah says you continue counting with a bracha. And the reason is because you also have a svek sveika. One, first suffix, maybe I fulfilled the mitzvah of Sefirah because I only needed to count the days. And number two, even if I didn't fulfill the mitzvah of Sefirah, maybe we paskin like the opinion that it's 49 separate mitzvahs, and I can continue counting anyway. Okay, so just to summarize the halachas we learned tonight, if somebody forgets to count Sefirah at night, he should count during the day without a bracha. We also learned that if someone totally forgets Sefirah a whole day, then he should count Sefirah for the rest of every subsequent night without a bracha, and preferably hear the bracha from the chazan, the one leading the services. And we also learned that if one is unsure if he counted Sefirah, then he can continue counting without a bracha. I wish everyone a good week, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.